Hey everyone, Matthew here, and this is Robert Reich.
I do believe we have got to start a serious movement to impeach this dangerous tyrant.
In the past, Robert Reich has worked for presidential administrations, most notably as the Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. He now makes a video series titled The Resistance Report that is dedicated to fighting Trump's presidency. Reich is very left-wing, and he's a part of academia, acting as the Chancellor's Professor of Public Policy for a major university.
Let me guess. Berkeley?
That's right, Berkeley. Now, I was already putting together a video on Reich when the Berkeley riots broke out. Masked rioters set fires and vandalized buildings and assaulted people. And you may have already heard about Robert Reich's interesting conspiracy theory.
And I'd want to be very, very clear. I was there for part of last night, and I know what I saw. And those people were not Berkeley students. Those were outsiders, agitators. I've never seen them before. There's rumors that they actually were right-wingers. They were part of a kind of a group that were organized and ready to create the kind of tumult and danger you saw that forced the police to cancel the event.
Do you think this was a strategy by Yiannopoulos or right-wingers? They put this on so they could, in an effort to show that, there's no free speech on a college campus like UC Berkeley?
I wouldn't bet against it, Don. I saw these people. They were they all looked almost paramilitary. They were not from the campus. I've heard, I don't want to say factually, but I've heard that there was some relationship there between these people and the right wing, and the right wing movement that is affiliated with Breitbart News.
Yes, it was not Berkeley students. Not Berkeley students. It was possibly right-wingers who staged the riot to make Berkeley look bad.
When did you get so paranoid?
When they started plotting against me.
There are thousands of students at Berkeley, but apparently Reich knows every one of them so well he can tell you that none of them were under those masks. Reich's paranoid fantasies about right-wingers raising hell on his university to make them look bad? Well, that's right in line with the Russian election-fixing conspiracy that he also enjoys.
We don't know yet what the investigation by the Senate Intelligence Committee and the FBI, assuming the FBI will be permitted to continue their investigation, will turn up in terms of the connection between Russian operatives and Donald Trump in fixing the election.
The hardcore anti-Trump movement is really doing everything it can to outdo the insanity of their opposition. Because this makes the birther movement look smart. Russians fixed the election, and right-wingers are staging riots to make the left look bad. But if you peel away Robert Reich's paranoid delusions, is it possible he can make more than the occasional intelligent point? See, I stumbled onto one of his videos on accident. I wasn't looking for it. And I was enthusiastic about it, because I remembered the man being very sharp, very respectable, even if I don't always subscribe to his views. I was disappointed with what I watched. This is the first of his videos that I happened upon. It's from a little while back.
He's not even president, 31 days to go.
So, after the election, but before the inauguration. What Reich is going to try to do here is get you concerned about Trump's authoritarian tendencies. And that's one of my main concerns about Trump, even at the time the video was made. During the campaign, Trump expressed support for New York's stop and frisk law, a law that had already been found unconstitutional by the courts. Now, I am not a Democrat, but I am also not a Republican. And I'm not a liberal, but I'm also not a conservative. And when it comes to Trump specifically, I'm not a real hardcore anti-Trump voice. I make fun of them. But I'm also not a Trump supporter. So in theory, I should be exactly the kind of person that Reich is trying to reach. And since he's talking about one of my concerns, he should have a head start. Let's see how well he does.
What we see, even before Donald Trump takes office, is a lot of things that I find, and I think you should find also, quite disturbing. The notion of bypassing and denigrating the press. A democracy depends on an independent, free press. That's how we hold officials accountable. That's how Officials are asked hard questions. That's how we actually understand what they are doing. That's where criticism often comes from a free and independent press. That's why it's in the Constitution of the United States. Now, this is new because every other president who's been elected has had a press conference shortly after being elected. Donald Trump is even talking about not having press briefings. He doesn't. He's changing the rules, and those rules all have to do with bypassing the press and talking directly to the public through, again, tweets and rallies and whatever other situation. I mean, he's also made videos. Now, Franklin D. Roosevelt had fireside chats, and the purpose of those fireside chats, of something very new through radio, was to be able to inspire and give confidence to the public at a time of dire need during the Depression, and then through World War II. Donald Trump is not bypassing the press in that way. Trump is bypassing the press and denigrating the press basically because he wants to be able to get his views across without any criticism, without any mediation. That's what the media are, without anything between him and the mass of Americans. This is a classic totalitarian trope.
Speaking directly to the people is totalitarian? No, it's not. I can see what your concern is here, but this does nothing in the way of convincing me that Trump is an authoritarian.
This is what, in the 1930s, the people who took over Mussolini and Franco and dare I say Hitler and Stalin and others, this is one of the first things they did. They suppressed and denigrated the press.
Suppressed. But Trump is not suppressing the media. Trump is criticizing the media. And at a time when trust in the mainstream media is at a spectacular low.
A scapegoating. I mean, what Donald Trump continues to do is talk about Muslims and assume that Muslims and the people he's actually put into national security positions are saying that it's all a matter of Muslims. Don't trust Muslims. This suggestion and this reiteration that Muslims are somehow to blame for what's happening around the world is also extremely dangerous. And without any press to correct him, without any ongoing criticism of what he is doing.
Okay, I don't know where the hell you've been, but I have seen the press criticizing Trump at every turn. And at this point would do you very little good anyway, because the use of scapegoating is not peculiar to authoritarians. It's pretty universal. Try the next one. Maybe you'll have a point there.
These big lies, and this is another thing that I want to draw your attention to, because there are big lies that he is telling.
Lying. There are a hell of a lot of politicians that lie very regularly that I would never accuse of being authoritarian. I'm not sure you understand what an authoritarian is. A hardcore libertarian can lie pretty big. What lies are you talking about specifically? Maybe that'll help.
He refuses to acknowledge that Russia tried to tamper with the election. The CIA has said it. The FBI has said it. Trump says no. There is no evidence of that. That is a big lie.
But I haven't seen any evidence of it. That the CIA says a thing is true doesn't make it true. You can say that you believe in it. But Donald Trump's rejection of the notion is not a lie.
Another big lie that he has been using is that he won in a landslide. He keeps on saying, oh, it was a landslide, a historic landslide. Just the opposite. Obviously, Hillary Clinton had 3 million more votes than Donald Trump, and there was no landslide here.
Well, I hate the Electoral College system too, but that doesn't make Trump's statement a lie. Like it or not, the Electoral College is the system we use to determine who wins the presidency. And Trump did get more electoral votes than Clinton did, by far. That is what counts. Hillary got 232 and Trump got 306? That sounds like a landslide to me. That's not a lie. That's true. Reich is lying in an attempt to get me to believe that Donald Trump is lying.
He says there was massive fraud. He reiterates this from the campaign, but he has reiterated it over and over again in his rallies after the election, that there was massive voter fraud. That is simply not the case. In fact, there's no evidence of massive voter fraud.
Okay, I'll give you that one. Again, though, I don't know that this is authoritarian.
He also says things like the rate of homicides is up 45%, when in fact we know that that's the opposite of reality. Homicides are down 50% from what they were, and by saying homicides are up, what he is doing in effect is creating the impression in the public that we have got to have more militarization of our police, maybe more mass incarceration. He is laying a predicate for a set of policies that are based upon fantasy and lies.
Okay, I'm not as concerned with this lie as you are, because I'm not convinced that Trump is going to use it to the purpose that you've laid out. You're kind of reaching there.
When he says that climate change is a hoax, and he hires people like Scott Pruitt for the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, who deny climate change. Again, these big lies have a chance of being understood, not as lies, but as truth, when you have somebody who is bypassing the press and is repeating the big lies.
Okay, the climate change thing is not a lie. It's foolish. It's a point that Reich disagrees with him on, and it's a point that I disagree with him on. But that makes it a difference of opinion. It's not some authoritarian lie.
And you also have somebody who is very vindictive. And what authoritarians always are, they punish their enemies. They say, effectively, they criticize their enemies publicly. They want their own brown shirts or their goons or their followers to attack their enemies.
Brown shirts and goons. Well, I haven't seen the Trump Goon Squad yet. Did I miss a news story? Did Trump bypass the press so well that no one reported on this?
I'm reporting from underneath the table because the inauguration death patrols are coming.
This is what Donald Trump continues to do. Every time somebody criticizes him, then he says in tweets or in his rallies that by naming that individual person, he sets off alarm bells. And he generates attacks on that particular person. That vindictiveness itself is also an element of authoritarianism.
Trump criticizes his opposition, and that makes him authoritarian. Did the other side not criticize Trump and everyone who supports him? If that makes a person authoritarian, then all we have to choose from is authoritarians.
And finally, look at what he is doing in terms of the kind of White House, he's appointing. Authoritarians put their family members, because they're the only ones they can trust, in very high places. What Donald Trump wants to do is bring in his daughter and son-in-law into the White House, give them offices.
Okay, I can see how you have part of a point here. I mean, it's not as though JFK would have appointed his own brother Attorney General. But seriously, Reich's evidence that Trump is an authoritarian is flimsy. If he's trying to prove to me that Trump is an irresponsible asshole, then he's done a reasonable job. But an authoritarian? None of this is particularly authoritarian. If there were some court that determined ideological labels, this evidence would be circumstantial at best. Makes me wonder if Reich isn't just using his own definition of authoritarian. Which doesn't surprise me, because he's got his own definition of the word liberal. Before the election, he wrote an article titled, "For Liberals, a protest vote against Hillary Clinton isn't the answer." That was changed from the original title, which read, "People who aren't voting for Hillary can't call themselves liberal." Nice. If you're not voting the way I tell you, then you aren't a liberal.
One other thing. Don't think anymore. I do the thinking around here.
I continue to hear from people who call themselves progressives or liberals, but tell me they won't vote for Hillary Clinton in the upcoming election. With due respect, I believe they're wrong. Some claim she's no better than Donald Trump. He's bad, but she's just as bad, they say. Well, I'm sorry, but anyone who equates Trump with Clinton hasn't been paying attention. Now, you can imagine that some of the people who discovered that they weren't liberal had a few things to say. Here are some of the comments from that article. We've been paying attention, Secretary Reich. It is you who is not. Yes, Trump will set us backwards progressively, but our very democracy is at stake. If we let Clinton get in with this level of corruption, we do not have a democracy anymore. Yes, I shudder at the possible Supreme Court picks Trump will choose. However, at least he is not a part of that corrupt establishment which I guess you are a part of as well. Your vain attempts to paint Trump as scary or Hitler-like only tells us the sort of person you are. You were afraid of losing your influence, and you know it. Why didn't you fight against the massive set of election fraud that Clinton waged against Sanders back when you could have made a difference? Well, it's too late now. Fine, let us welcome President Trump. Trump is actually more liberal than Clinton on some issues. He's against the TPP, and he is for working with Assad and Russia in Syria, which is the only sane solution. This is no protest vote. You, Secretary Reich, are in denial. Bob, you're losing me. A vote for Hillary is the antithesis of liberal. You went on one movie date for hell's sake. She's not the same girl. She's taken record donations from donors with corporate agendas, insurance for example, and is hinting at privatizing Social Security. She loves war, dismantling the archaic two-party system that brought us these peaches for candidates as liberal. Seriously hoping that you get your actual liberal mojo back, because you lost it along the way. Mr. Reich, I have had much respect for you in the past, but I take exception to your premise that those of us who do not vote for Hillary are not liberal. For many of us, Hillary and Trump are two halves of the same corporate war monster, and there is no clear lesser of two evils. My bottom line is, who do I think is most likely to start World War III? At this moment, Hillary seems hell-bent on conflict with Russia. That's friggin' scary. I will not vote for Trump, but Hillary is not liberal. She is a proven war hawk who will not stick to the party platform because she does not believe in it. If she did, Bernie would not have had to fight so hard for it. I never vote for the big parties. I never vote Republican. And in this election, even I was tempted to vote for Trump. Not because I support him, but because the possibility of a war, potentially a world war, scared me a lot more than a Trump presidency did. Trump is the president now, though. And Reich is trying to lead a resistance.
Our 100 days of resistance can set the tone for a sustained level of engagement over the next 4 years. It will take each of us about an hour a day.
An hour a day. Only an hour a day. From each of us. Good luck with that, Mr. Reich.
Here's the first 100-day resistance agenda. Number 1, get your senators and representatives to pledge to oppose Trump's agenda, reject his nominees, prolong the process of approving them, draw out hearings on legislation. Call your senator and representative and don't stop calling. Number 2, march and demonstrate. The Women's March on Washington will be the day after the inauguration.
Yeah, the Women's March turned out to be a carnival sideshow. Even a lot of Democrats and liberals shuddered at the sight of that many vagina costumes. Not to mention the stirring addresses from the likes of Ashley Judd and Madonna. Oh, and if you're pro-life, don't bother showing up. They won't let you march. Because resisting Trump is not important enough to make alliances with the wrong end of the spectrum.
Number 4, boycott all Trump products, real estate, hotels, resorts, everything. And then boycott all stores, like Nordstrom, that carry merchandise from Trump family brands.
Now, how does boycotting Trump products affect his presidency? What the hell. Boycotts are fun.
Number 5, write letters to the editor of your newspaper and op-eds.
Dear editor, the guy in the Oval Office is an orange jerk.
Number 6, contribute to social media with up-to-date daily bulletins on what Trump is up to and actions in your region in opposition.
Operation Unfriended.
Number 7, contribute to the most effective opposition groups, the American Civil Liberties Union, Common Cause, the Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Southern Poverty Law Center, huh? Aren't they the ones that called Ayaan Hirsi Ali a anti-Muslim extremist? Screw you.
The Economic Policy Institute, Inequality Media, and others.
Oh, there's your own group. Yeah, I can't wait to fund your daily diatribes.
Number 10, start a move in your state to abolish the Electoral College.
Hey, we're on the same page on this one. Maybe not for the same reasons.
Reach out to independents and even Trump supporters who agree with this agenda and get them involved.
Start by telling them that they're not liberal, and then tell them that they should support social justice.
Social justice and the progressive agenda that will be back, that is being developed.
See how far that gets you. Maybe you should separate the one cause from the other.
Number 12, your idea goes here. Meet with family and...
My idea? Well, maybe we could just chill the hell out and try to work together to improve the nation, instead of struggling as hard as you can to maintain the divisions that keep us polarized. Think that might work? All right, I want to end this with a stunning piece of irony. Here are Robert Reich's own words from before the election, back when everyone knew that Hillary was going to win. The odds are still very heavily in favor of Hillary Clinton becoming president. My real concern at this point is Donald Trump supporters continue to fulminate. Some of them will feel that the election is illegitimate. Trump will continue to fan those flames, and that will make it even harder for not just Hillary Clinton to govern, but the entire process of government to move forward. Fight not with monsters lest you become a monster, huh? Reich became exactly what he feared. Some of Hillary's supporters say that the election was illegitimate.
Because Donald Trump is not yet clearly a legitimate president. That is the big issue. We can't have a legitimate Supreme Court justice until we have a legitimate president.
They will make it harder, not just for Trump to govern, but for the entire process of government to move forward.
And so there should be no vote on Donald Trump's nominees, any of them, even if there's somebody after Gorsuch. There should be no vote until we are clear about the legitimacy of the Donald Trump presidency. Get your senators and representatives to pledge to oppose Trump's agenda, reject his nominees, prolong the process of approving them, draw out hearings on legislation.
I guess it's different when he's doing it.